If you're scraping cookies off the tray like a mini crime scene, it's probably the parchment. So let's rank the 5 to avoid, then the 5 that actually behave. Starting with the worst. This is the one people grab because it's a warehouse roll, it's cheap, and it basically looks harmless. But this brand can turn lining your tray into a fight. First thing I notice is the curl. Lay it on the tray. If it instantly tries to roll back up, you already know how this is going. You try to flatten it, and it pops back up. You try to tear it, and it rips jagged like you're opening ancient scrolls. You finally get it on the tray, and the corners lift the second you place food, as if it's offended by your vegetables. Here's why this actually matters beyond annoyance. When parchment curls or lifts, it changes the way heat and air move around food. Cookies can bake unevenly. The edges can brown faster. Roasted veggies can end up steaming in weird pockets where the paper is wrinkled. Cheese can melt and run under lifted corners and then glue itself to the tray anyway. Cleanup gets worse, not better. Then there's the second betrayal. Inconsistent release. Some parts act non-stick, other parts act like you used glue. So you can bake 2 trays of cookies the exact same way, and one tray slides off clean, while the other tray rips cookie bottoms off, like it's harvesting them. If you've ever looked at your tray and thought, "Why did my recipe betray me today?" It might not have been your recipe. It might have been your paper. And now, the next one is a very specific type of budget parchment that tricks people because it's everywhere. I'm not here to shame anyone for shopping on a budget. I'm here to shame any product that pretends it's a normal, everyday choice, and then quietly sets you up to fail if you cook the way modern recipes cook. Great value unbleached parchment is commonly listed with a lower heat tolerance than what a lot of people actually use day to day. And the trap is that it feels close enough. People think 420 and 425 are basically the same. But parchment paper is not a close enough product when you're right near the limit. Here's the experience people have. They roast veggies at 425. They do sheet pan chicken at 425. They bake something at 450 because TikTok told them to. They're not doing anything extreme. They're following a recipe. That's why I like the 450 degrees Fahrenheit check. If the edges brown fast, get brittle, or smell weird, it's just not built for how people cook now. And then the parchment starts darkening faster than expected. It can get brittle. It can smell slightly burnt. It can behave like it's aging in real time. The key is that it doesn't fail dramatically. It fails in a way that makes people blame themselves. And that's the worst kind of kitchen product because it's not obviously broken, it's just quietly unreliable. If you mostly bake cookies at 350, fine. If you roast at 425 regularly, or bake at 450 often, this is where the budget becomes, why does my oven smell like a burnt office printer? Now, the next villain is a modern convenience brand that people assume is automatically okay. Amazon Basics parchment paper is the kind of thing people buy because they were already ordering something else and it's convenient. It's marketed as non-stick and oven-safe to a certain temperature, and for simple tasks, it can look like it works. The problem is consistency and the type of cooking people do now. If you bake basic cookies, you might never notice. But once you do sticky foods, glossy foods, sugary foods, cheesy foods, or anything that melts into that, this will either release cleanly or ruin my evening zone. That's where cheaper parchment reveals itself. Quick cheese test. Sprinkle a little, bake it, let it cool. If the cheese peels off with the paper, that's your answer. Because real parchment feels like it has a reliable barrier. Sticky candy comes off. Roasted sweet potatoes don't glue. Melted cheese releases when it cools. Cleanup stays easy. But fine until it isn't parchment gives you unpredictable results. One day it's fine. Next day your food is fused. That unpredictability is what kills trust. And trust is what people want from kitchen supplies. Now the next villain is the one that destroys more food than any brand ever could, because it's not even parchment paper. This is the one that looks totally normal on the shelf. It says parchment. It's priced like parchment. It feels like parchment. And then you use it for anything even slightly serious. Sticky dough, high heat, caramelly stuff, and it starts acting like it's not built for the job. Here's the problem. It's inconsistent. Some sheets feel fine, then the next cook you're peeling paper off the bottom of food like you're undoing a mistake in real time. And if you're baking bread or doing hotter oven temps, it can go from okay to why is this glued on fast? It also loves to brown early around the edges, so you get that weird burnt paper smell even when your food isn't actually overcooked. And when it sticks, it doesn't just stick a little. It peels off in flakes and takes the clean bottom layer with it. This is the worst type of bad product because it doesn't fail every time. It fails just often enough to ruin a batch and make you doubt yourself. Alright, now the worst one. This is my number one, never again, because it causes the most confusion and the most disasters. Dollar Tree rolls and similar baking paper products are where people get burned. Sometimes literally, because the labeling is vague. Half the time it's not clearly parchment. Half the time it has no clear temperature rating. Sometimes it's fine for light use, sometimes it's a complete mess. This is the roll that makes people say, "But I thought parchment was parchment." Real parchment is specific. It's designed for heat plus release. If the roll can't clearly tell you what it is and what heat it can handle, you're the test subject. And this is where people get the worst combo: curling, tearing, and food sticking all in the same cook. That's the triple betrayal. One thing that has nothing to do with brand and everything to do with distance: toaster ovens and broiler-style heat. Parchment is light, it lifts, it shifts. And in toaster ovens, the heating element is closer than people realize. That's when a corner can lift and suddenly you're dealing with a situation you didn't sign up for. All right, we just roasted paper. Now we cleanse the palate. We're switching to 5 parchment options that actually deserve your trust. And you're going to want to stay, because the number one pick fixes the biggest day-to-day parchment problem. Here are the 5 brands that actually feel like they were designed by someone who cooks. Reynolds is the classic for a reason. It's consistent, it behaves. It does what parchment is supposed to do. This is the roll you grab when you want baking to feel normal again. Cookies release without that "please don't rip the bottoms off" moment. Roasted vegetables lift instead of welding. Brownies and bars come out clean if you line the pan properly. Your sheet pans stay cleaner. Your mood stays stable. It's not trying to be cute. It's not pretending to be artisanal. It just works. And that's why it's on the list. If you're doing regular baking and regular roasting, Reynolds is the dependable, boring friend you actually want in your kitchen. Now, if you want the same "it just works" feeling, but with less drama per dollar, here's the warehouse store workhorse. Kirkland Parchment has a quiet fan base because it hits the sweet spot. Huge roll, solid performance, and it doesn't act like it needs attention. This is the one that makes your kitchen feel smoother without you realizing why. You line trays faster. You roast more often because cleanup doesn't feel like a punishment. You stop doing that thing where you avoid cooking because you're imagining scrubbing a pan later. Also, Kirkland tends to feel a little thicker and less flimsy than the bargain rolls. That matters. Thickness makes it easier to lay down without it doing the little curl and slide dance. It also helps with tearing, less jagged ripping, less wasting paper, less anger. If you use parchment a lot, this is one of the easiest buy once, stop thinking about it options. Now, if you bake even semi-regularly, this next one is the upgrade that makes people feel like they unlocked a cheat code. There are two types of people in this world. People who still fight parchment rolls every week. And people who switch to pre-cut sheets and now look at rolls like they look at wired earbuds, like, why was I suffering? King Arthur parchment sheets are loved because they remove the most annoying part of parchment, setup. No tearing from the box. No trying to measure while your hands are covered in flour. No wrestling a roll that curls back into a tube the second you turn your head. You grab a sheet, drop it on the pan. It stays flat. You move on with your life. And here's the part people don't talk about enough. Most parchment problems aren't even about sticking. They're about movement. Sliding and curling create half the chaos. Sheets fix that instantly. If you've ever started cooking and felt irritated before the food even went in the oven, this is why. Now, before we go deeper, let's deal with the one comment that shows up every single time. Quick reality check. Is parchment paper toxic? This is where the internet gets weird, so we keep it simple. Most non-stick parchment gets that non-stick from a silicone coating. The real rule isn't panic, it's use it like it's meant to be used. Stay within the temperature rating on the box. Don't use it under broilers. Don't let it touch heating elements. Don't use it on open flame. And for the love of sanity, don't confuse wax paper with parchment paper. If it doesn't clearly say parchment paper, and it doesn't clearly state an oven-safe temperature, it's not coming home with you. Now, if you want the cleaner vibe option that still performs, here's the one people swear by. If you care is popular for a very specific reason. It appeals to people who care about what they're using, but still want it to actually work. It's often marketed as unbleached and chlorine-free, which matters to a lot of people. But beyond that, it tends to do the job reliably. And that's the real test. Because values don't matter if your cookies weld to the tray. This is the kind of parchment you buy when you want something that feels more thoughtful without sacrificing performance. It's also great if you're the type of person who reads labels and gets annoyed when products are vague about what they are. Now for the number one pick. And yes, it's still a brand, not a method, not a category. A brand you can actually buy, and once you do, you'll understand why it's number one. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. The biggest enemy of parchment paper is not sticking. It's movement. It's the curl, the slide, the corner lifting, the sheet creeping the second you place food. The tiny frustrations that make cooking feel annoying before you even start. Paper Chef pre-cut sheets fix that. They stay flat. They don't fight you. They don't do the scroll thing. They don't drift around the pan like they're trying to escape. And when setup stops being annoying, you cook more. When you cook more, your results get better. That's the actual hack no one says out loud. Also, if you film anything in the kitchen, this is the best kind of boring. The tray looks cleaner, the setup is faster, and you don't waste time wrestling a roll while you're trying to keep the pace of the video moving. Now that we've covered what to buy, let's hit the part that feels like insider knowledge. Because even if you buy the best parchment on earth, you can still mess it up with these habits. The first mistake is pushing parchment into intense heat zones. Broilers, open flame, or letting it sit too close to a heating element. Parchment is heat resistant. It's not a flame shield. The second mistake is treating parchment like it's reusable forever. If it's greasy, heavily browned, brittle, or looks like it went through a war, let it go. It's paper. It has a lifespan. The third mistake is assuming all parchment behaves the same with all foods. Sticky sugar, melted cheese, and candy are where cheap parchment turns into tragedy. High-quality parchment with a consistent coating is what saves you from the caramel stuck like glue moment. And the fourth mistake is ignoring the simplest trick if you're stuck using rolls: crumple it first. A quick crumple and flatten helps it behave on the tray. It's not as perfect as sheets, but it can save your sanity. Here's the final truth. Parchment paper should be boring. It should be the thing you never think about. If your parchment is exciting, something is wrong. Avoid the stuff that curls, tears, sticks, or plays roulette with heat limits. Use the brands that stay flat, release clean, and don't turn your kitchen into a paper-based betrayal storyline. Hit subscribe if you want more kitchen truth like this, and comment the worst parchment disaster you've ever had. Was it cookies that ripped in half? Was it melted sugar that fused like cement? Was it cheese that somehow became one with the paper like a science experiment? Because I want to know who the biggest parchment liar is in your kitchen. Until next time, keep cooking smart and stop trusting paper that hates you.